Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of the Shut Up David series, where we bring you guests from around the world to talk to you about everything new view safety and organizational coaching. And speaking of around the world, we've got an international superstar for you today to come and talk to you about her version of new view safety and how she's adapted it to work for her and her clients. This is Becky Ray. Becky's got a multidisciplinary background spanning engineering, health and safety, and culture change expertise. Becky offers a unique and holistic perspective on fostering thriving workplace environments. In this insightful video, she's going to be sharing with you her proprietary, if I can say it, proprietary high-performing cultures framework, a proven approach that has catalyzed positive change in countless businesses. I'm having trouble speaking today, aren't I? Prepared to be enlightened as Becky delves into the core principles of empowering leaders, cultivating engagement, and nurturing a culture that provides performance to new heights. Her innovative Culture Cake model provides a comprehensive roadmap for organizations seeking to unlock the full potential of their workforce. So let's find out who Becky is, how she got to this place in her profession, and if her solutions that she's offering is something that you might want to look at for your organization. Let's bring her onto the stage now, Becky Ray. Becky, lovely to meet you.
That was a massive intro with lots of words that just went right over my head, but I'll take international superstar. Maybe I can make a badge.
That's all you picked out from that, wasn't
it? Loved it.
Well, you're international for us because we're in Australia and you're in England.
And you're eating biscuits I've never heard of, so
that's Tim Tams
right there.
Well, like I said to you before the start, they're just penguins but on steroids. They're delicious. You have to try them.
Penguin.
Yeah. I can't believe the only thing you picked out from that was international superstar. What about the fact I actually mentioned your culture cake?
You did, yeah. I'm more than happy to talk about my cake, and you didn't stumble on all the in that sentence.
I didn't. I just stumbled on everything else because my false teeth were falling out and I haven't glued them in this morning.
Yeah.
Anyway, why don't we, for people who don't know you outside, well, I mean, you're pretty well known in the safety world anyway. A lot of people even here in Australia know of you. I was talking to a friend of mine here. I'm in Perth. He's in Queensland on the other end of the country, and he knows you and he talks to you regularly, and people in Sydney know you. So people around Australia know you, but for people who don't know you, shall we just start off with a bit of an intro to you, who you are, brief intro as to your career to date, and then we'll start looking at how you got into this new view, hop, culture, workplace development side of things, and what you've started to create. How does that grab you?
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it. So, my name is Becky. I live in Bristol, in England, in the UK. Bristol is a place to be, right by the sea. So, feel at home there. I started my career as an engineer. So, I did an apprenticeship. I got overalls. I got a snap-on 9-drawer. If you're in the trade, you know how cool that is. I had a white van, and they gave me the biggest one they could find because they were like, "We're going to give her."
How tall are you as well?
I'm tiny. I'm like 5'5". I'm really tiny. And when I was an apprentice, I was in like 16, 17. So I was really diddy. And just to take the mickey out of me, they gave me like a extra long wheelbase transit high top and went, "That's the van for her." But you know what? It made me, I'm an excellent driver. I can park a van anywhere.
Well, you have to be if you're driving in England in a big van as well.
Yeah, totally. So I did that for 10 years. I drove around to loads and loads of sites and used to fix forklift trucks and big construction equipment, which means I spent a lot of time in a lot of different businesses, sort of blue collar, people that do stuff with their hands, like fast pace, it's high risk. They're under pressure normally when they call me out because something's broken. So their production and their operation is down. So people are a bit stressed. So I got really good at talking to people that were kind of in a panic stage and brought a sense of calm and came in kind of with my cape on to kind of fix stuff. By but it means I've soaked up a lot of culture, so it makes sense. It only makes sense when you look back. It doesn't make sense at the time, but it makes sense that I do culture change because I've spent so much time in so many different businesses, and I know the key components that make a great culture and where people can thrive, especially we've thrown a lot of people together to do some kind of safety critical work in a time pressure environment. So I did that for 10 years, and then I kind of peaked. I mean, it's cold, it's wet, it's dirty. There's a lot of lying in puddles and stuff. And I kind of peaked at where I was going, but I absolutely loved it. And I'm still mechanically minded. Like, I fix my own car as much as I can. I do DIY around the house. It's a skill I can whip out my back pocket when I need to. Then I went into health and safety. So again, I worked in like really hardcore safety critical environments like rail, infrastructure, big tunnels and bridges, construction, utility, a bit of military aviation, those kinds of environments. And again, I love that kind of space. It feels exciting, like big stuff, big heavy stuff. And did health and safety, and again, learning about operations. Like, people in operations want to get stuff done. That is their default. They are doers, and safety sometimes comes in and like sidelines that, and it's like, whoa, you can't do that.
Sometimes comes in and sidelines it. A lot of the time.
But my ethos straight away as a safety person, because I'd been kind of a hands-on doer, was like, we can still do this and do it safely, but we want to get it done. So that's always been my ethos of, I'm going to be an enabler. We're going to find the sweet spot where we can do this big, massive, crazy thing. Like, for example, on the railway, they do like 6 months worth of work in a weekend. Like, it's really intense and squashed in. They work like 24 hours. So it's like, how can we do this much work, this much high risk work in a really condensed piece of time? And if you looked at it on paper, you'd be like, no way would we do that, but we make it happen. And there is always that sweet spot, and that's what I encourage other safety people to do is find the sweet spot. We can still do all this stuff and do it safely.
Yeah, right. Okay, we got something similar over here on the mines in Australia. They call them shutdowns, where these ore mines or gold mines are running 24/7, 365, except for these maintenance shutdowns, usually 2 a year. And it's for like a week, and they shut them down and stop, and it's just work 24/7 for like 7 days, and they're just working. People in from all over the world come in to help maintain it, replace it, and it's the most exciting time, to be honest with you, but it's also the most dangerous time, as well. All right, okay, so you did that, and then how did you get into safety? Just by the way.
So when I was an engineer, we started doing bigger like bits of work. So there are a particular kind of forklift that literally fit into like a warehouse. You literally build it into the aisles, and they're massive. And we did a few jobs where we had to take those out, like cut them into pieces, and then put it on the back of the lorry. So I started writing lift plans and method statements and risk assessments. So I got really clued up on that and thought, I know how to do something that seems really dangerous. I know how to plan it, and I know how to articulate it to a team of people that are doing it. And that was kind of my in to safety. Yeah,
right. Okay, cool. So then what? Then what was on the next chapter for Becky Ray?
Yeah, so then I was working at a really big, well-known construction company when COVID hit, and loved it there. We were on a massive restoration project of a big like theatre, like music hall, and it was epic. I had every safety risk you could possibly imagine. I was part of the operational team. We were making it happen against all odds. And then COVID hit, and then naturally all businesses had to kind of make some cuts, and I lost my job. And I was totally gutted because nobody wants to lose their job. But it was kind of the nudge I needed to go, right, what is the next thing I want to do? Where is my next opportunity? And I got an opportunity straight away back into a big engineering company that I'd worked for as an employee. They said I could come back in as a contractor because they had a safety improvement project they needed a bit of help with and needed like some external eyes on. So I set my business up overnight, as you do, because you can literally just set a business up overnight. I think it cost you £6 to register. That's like the origin story of my business. to get in this contract. And then I stayed doing a bit of contracting for a while. And then after maybe about 2 or 3 years of doing that, I thought I want to choose the kind of work I want to do, and I want to choose the kind of clients I want to do, and I kind of want to move away from safety. I don't want safety in my job title anymore, because I want to do this culture piece. So I'd got into New View Safety, HOP, which is Human and Organizational Performance. That was all part of my DNA. That was part of my approach. But I was getting bored of the transactional safety stuff. I didn't want to write another risk assessment or look at ISOs. All that really turns me off, that paperwork side of it. I want to do the really people-focused strategy. How do we bring people together? And it's almost that mindset piece about how are leaders setting people to work, how are they interacting with each other. That's the stuff that really fascinates me, and the stuff that I can really have an impact on, because I'm so passionate about it. So that's when I developed Culture Kick, and I wanted to call it something about culture, because and I know some people still believe that safety culture is a thing, but I don't. I just think workplace, how can you have a separate safety culture? It might be that your operation is safety critical, and that needs to be a really strong thread through it. And I get that's why people then call it a safety culture, but it's just how you do business. If you've got people doing stuff, whether they're making pies or they're building a bridge, culture is what holds the people and the systems together. And that's
I agree with you.
What it'd be in. So
I agree with you completely. You know, it's difficult to separate those out, and there's been a lot of talk and debate about it over here as well, about is there such a thing as safety culture, or is there just culture and safety is an element of that? And almost like I've heard it said once, and I quite like it, from an ex-boss of mine. He said safety climate is like a litmus test of the safety culture at that moment in time, but the culture as a whole is the organizational culture, and everything's interconnected, which is why you can't really separate it out from anything, because it's all one, isn't it? It's how the people operate with the machinery. It's how the people interface with each other. It's how they interface with outside the organization. It's everything within there. So okay, cool. So you decided then that was, I always ask all my guests this as well, because I find it fascinating. And what was your gateway into HOP and New View? Like, how did you first find out about it?
So I was working at Network Rail, and just a fellow safety person went, I found this video. The first video that Decker put out, the Safety Differently one. It's 10 minutes long. He found that on YouTube and sent it to me, and I was like, and it really resonated with me. And even though it was new at the time, I was like, well, that just makes sense. Well, surely we're all doing that, aren't we? But I recognized quite early on in my career that lots of people were quite transactional and compliant and spouting legislation at people. And I was more about, no, let's just find a way to work together. And it was nice when I started finding all that stuff and reading all the books from Sydney and Coglin and all those awesome people in that space, and watching more stuff. And I was like, this is this. And I didn't have a name to give it before, but I always felt like I was a bit different compared to some other safety people and some other people in operations, to be fair. And I think a lot of it's got to do with, and I know this has been talked about to death, but a lot of it's got to do with the route that we train safety people, the sheep dip route we take them to get trained, and we throw the legislation in their face, and we talk about compliance, and we scare them to death about people are going to go to prison if you don't do this. And that is an element. You need that lever to pull when you need to. But let's just do business really well. And look after people and treat people nice and give them what they need, and work in a really slick way so we are efficient and we give our clients a great quality product or service. And safety is going to come with that.
It's like when we were... It's like when we had the discussion last week, or was it the week before, when we were talking about what we're going to talk about? It's like you can do all these, you can achieve all these great things and not even talk about safety, because it's literally just efficient business. It's better communications. It's process, proper process flow. It's all those things, and safety, like you said, just ends up being a byproduct, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Of that,
and
of that
to be
whole
fair,
thing.
I don't really talk about safety anymore. Like with my clients, it's not a thing
Right.
that comes up. I just talk about culture and the way that how are we choosing to set people to work? How are we choosing to do this stuff? What are our values? What are our beliefs? What is the mindset of our leaders when something goes wrong or when something's not right? And that really works for me, and it's nice to kind of leave that behind. I only end up talking about safety when I come on podcast and this discussion comes up, because it's this evolution, and I think everyone needs to find the evolution away from it. And if a business is in a place where they're not openly talking about safety, that's a good thing. Because they're just talking about great business ethics and they're being successful and their people are happy.
Efficiency and productivity, productivity and all those other things. And there's a story behind why you called it culture kick and why you didn't call it something like a hop coach or something on those lines, isn't it? Why is that?
So I got heavily into hop, and I've done some big pieces of kind of hop specific work for clients, and that's what they wanted. And if you know hop and you know safety differently, you know all the narrative that comes with that and the nuances of it, then great, that's going to land for your people. But I often find that so many people still don't know. And I found myself kind of hitting a brick wall trying to explain to people what hop was, because it's quite a difficult thing to explain in a sentence. Like, I know it really well, but it's hard to articulate what it is. So for me, if I just call it culture, how we set people to work, people get it.
And you found that lands far easier than trying to educate people about what hop is and then come back all the way around and go, well, it's actually just about the culture of the it's
but
about
what
the culture of the
I have done, rightly or wrongly, is I've taken all the good stuff that I love from hop, because I'm a massive fan. I believe the principles are what every business and every leader should need to inject into their business. And I've just kind of taken the best bits from that and lots of other resources that I found over the years and my own experience, and just smushed it into my own perspective of what I think a high-performing culture is. And then that's what I've turned into my cake. And that's the beauty of running your business. You get to do whatever you want. Cake. Now people buy it.
P.S. I love that word as well, smushed. It needs to be used far more. It is a great word. We're going to come back to your cake in a minute, because we're going to show people on the website as well. We're going to talk about that so they can see your 5 layers. I think you call them layers. Did you call them layers?
They are layers.
Well, you would do if it's part of a cake, wouldn't you? However, I've been dying to ask you this since the beginning, since our little intro talk, and you said, don't forget to ask me what my husband did with his computer. So what did he do with his laptop?
Okay, so I've started, so if you feel free to follow me on LinkedIn, because I now post every day, and I'm trying to post stuff that's like interesting and observational, and then I try and
put your link in the description as well.
Yeah, perfect. I try and link it to like my culture philosophy and great leadership and great safety. And this is just a phenomenal one. So if you understand the concept that human error is normal, and you live in that space and you're like, yeah, I see it and breathe it, you can see it everywhere. And I think we really need to normalize talking about human error. So my husband, I think it was on Tuesday or something, he went, "You'll never guess what I did today." And I was like, whoa, that story could go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but it's a good one. So he got his laptop open. He's got a silver Mac. So imagine it's thin, like when it's shut, it's thin and it's silver. And he had it in the kitchen. He had it open because he was checking the recipe, because he's trying to try out all this new stuff. And then he shut the lid. So I'm just trying to give you the context here.
Yep.
Then in the kitchen, and obviously in the kitchen, you're multitasking, and we all know what happens when you multitask. You're naturally distracted. And then he was getting some stuff prepared on a baking tray that looks like a similar shape, a similar size. He was getting this food prepared on the baking tray. And then he opened the oven, and what is in the oven is laptop. So he doesn't recall putting the laptop in the oven, and then maybe when you're doing it, your brain nudges you and goes, "What the hell are you doing?" Like he literally opened the oven. He said, "I must have opened the oven, put the laptop in the oven, not had any like nudges from the size or the weight of it. It must have just looked and felt like a baking tray. Shut the oven. It's on 200 degrees, man. I don't know what that equates to in Australia, but that's hot.
No, we use degrees here.
Okay. And so then he was obviously preparing the thing, I think it was aubergines or something, like on a tray. And then he opened the oven to put the tray of aubergines in, and he's like, "What the hell?" And the laptop's there, and he's literally been cooking his laptop, and he took it out, and it's like hot, obviously. He's only there for a few minutes. He was like, I was fascinated by it. And I was like, "You just made an error. You're a human being. It must have looked like the baking tray." And he put it in the oven. And then there was just no feedback that told him it was wrong. It just must have felt like the baking tray. And he's
unless
like,
we get that immediate feedback.
Doing it.
Yeah, unless we get that.
Go on.
So no, sorry, go on. Bit of a delay in the time.
I'm just saying it's fascinating how your brain can do something, and you're not conscious of it.
Yeah.
And you obviously lose that situational awareness, don't you? Because you're just pattern matching. But I just thought it was such a good example, because my husband's not stupid. I mean, he has his moments, but he's not stupid. He's not incompetent. He's not careless. And it's the essence of a human error is just something you didn't mean to do.
Yeah. Exactly.
And obviously that had consequences, because his laptop's a bit hot now. It's not knackered.
Oh, it still works.
Still works. He just thinks it's a bit slower.
It's running hot.
But we do it all the time everywhere. And I think the more businesses that get to a point where they accept that happens, and then you think about which environment would a mistake have really bad consequences, and let's see what we can do to, like, maybe you need someone to come along and check there's no laptops in the oven. Maybe that's a control we need in the house.
Does your husband know that you're telling everybody these stories?
Yeah, I was like, that's such a good story. I've got to share it. Because
did you put it on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah.
Oh, your husband's going to be sitting there going, "I'm never telling Becky any mistakes I've been making."
Like, we're not blaming him. Like, we're having a laugh about it because it's comical.
Yeah.
But I just want people to relate to it. But he's not stupid. He's not incompetent. He didn't need to try harder. He doesn't need to care more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think.
Or read more instruction manuals about how not to do that.
But that wouldn't have done it, would it?
No, exactly.
What to put it in.
So what about you? When was the last time you made a big mistake?
Oh, I do it all the time. All the time. So I parked my car. I opened the app, and you've got like different roads have got different parking meters on, and you just say what road you're on. And I just picked the one. I never checked it. I just assumed that it was right, and then I came back to my car and there's a parking ticket. And so what I've learned from that is I just made an assumption, as we all do all the time.
Yeah.
I just assumed the tech like had my back, but
it does for 99% of the time, and then when it fails dramatically, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the last error you made, David?
Oh God. What was the last big error I made? I've been spending the last week moving house, and I had to move out of the place I was in, move everything into storage, and then go from storage, over the next couple of days to the new place. And I did that. I was taking stuff that way, and then I don't know why I brought a whole heap of stuff back 100 kilometers in the other direction, and I get to the place where I'm supposed to be picking up all the stuff, and the back of my car's full. I'm like, oh, that shouldn't be full. That should be empty at this point, and I fill it up here and then take it back. But so there's 2 hours gone because I was just too busy doing other stuff, and I was tired. There you go. Yeah. I was just being a human being, like you said, and just not being perfect, which is something that's hard to swallow, isn't it? Sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow. So why don't we start having a look at your website, and then you can talk us through, and we can talk about your clients, and we can talk about the kind of offerings that you've got as well as to where did that go? Share screen, Culture Kick. Here we go. So this is your website for everyone who is looking and can't read. It's culturekick.co.uk. culturekick.co.uk. I'll put a link down in the description below with Becky's LinkedIn
Cool, thank
details as well, so you can follow Becky and get to learn more about what her husband does in the kitchen.
It gives me loads of great content.
So this is your website, Culture Kick High Performance. Why don't we have a look, if it's all right with you, if we start having a look at your cake, because that's kind of your IP, really, isn't it? This is where you've taken principles of HOP and other principles that you mentioned from other theories and solutions from around, and you've smushed them.
Smushed, that's the word.
Smushed them into your cake. So when we talk about number one, the first layer on here, which is make it easy.
Yeah, and it's I was going to do a lasagna, but I'm glad I settled on a cake. I just wanted something with layers. But I couldn't take so I take an actual cake when I go and do speaking gigs. I take an actual cake.
Right, okay.
Have some, and I thought it's not going to work with a lasagna.
Cake is far tastier, and it's been in the back of the car for half an hour, isn't it?
Yeah, but essentially it's just a framework, and I think these are the layers, the foundations that are kind of the ethos that you need to build in your business amongst your leadership level predominantly, because they're the people that are setting people to work.
Yep.
And I think the first one is we want to make it easy. Like, we want to make it easy to do the right thing and hard to do the wrong thing, whatever that means for you and your business.
Right,
and so
okay.
in that is all this notion about human error, error traps, which are things that make it more likely you're going to make an error. So that real acceptance that people are human, they're not computers and they're not machines and they're not AI. They are absolutely fantastic because they are adaptable and flexible and innovative and can work around loads of different kind of contexts, but they're also fallible and they're going to make mistakes. So we need to understand that and then set them up for success. You can actively set people up for more success if you understand this kind of stuff.
Right. So is it fair to say this first layer here, make it easy, that's directed predominantly at the senior leadership of the organization to kind of set the scene for them?
Yeah. So with all my programs, I always do an oversight kind of workshop, get all the senior leaders together, so they need to understand this stuff. But my core level that I work with the most, and they're my favorite kind of people, are those frontline operational leaders that are close enough to the top to understand the strategy and the stakeholders you've got to keep happy in the business, but they are close enough to the front line to really influence the work, the kind of work, the environments, the kit, the processes, the deadlines. And that's my favorite layer to work with, because they've got the ear of the leadership, but they've got the voice of the workers.
Right. Okay. And I've had other guests on, and I've heard from other consultants as well, and they talk about that layer though sometimes as the frozen middle, because they're getting pulled from the top and they're getting pulled from the bottom as well, so they end up in this frozen place. Is that why you concentrate so much time in
I don't
that
think
particular
they're
level?
frozen. I think they have a hard time. I think that is the hardest level of leadership to be in, but that is the most important and the most crucial. And like, they're my kind of people, because most of them have been on the tools.
Yeah.
They've got enough about them to be really great leaders and set people to work, but they often don't get much support or guidance or training to be a leader. And so that's my favorite layer to work with, because they're really hardworking, loyal, dedicated people that really care about the workers.
Yeah.
And they just need these kind of ideas, these nudges, to really set these people to work well. And then the senior leaders, they get this oversight, and I get them to give those middle managers the freedom, the time, the space, and the resources to put this stuff into action and try some stuff.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Back off them a bit and let them play with this stuff a bit.
Trust them a bit more. That what they're trying to do. Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's look at this next layer in your cake, the blue layer.
Okay, so speak up. It's all about, I mean, everyone knows the term psychological safety, but lots of people in business don't know it. It sounds a bit academic. So speak up is a nicer way to kind of make it more realistic and understand. So it's all of those tangible things you can do as a leader, as a peer, to make it okay to speak up. And also the skills of them being able to actually listen, and the skills to then influence to make some changes. So there's a lot I do around that speak up culture. And also just culture, like what are we doing when something goes wrong? How are we treating people? How are we responding? Are we jumping to blame? Kind of sits in that space.
That's the thing with these types of principles or these types of frameworks. You have to keep it brief and simple enough to be able to read like this, but the context and the content behind it is so detailed and so complex in some cases, isn't it? There's a lot of information that goes behind even a simple statement like speak up. Okay, well, what does that mean for this organization? How are we going to do that? What kind of technology do we have to enable that? What kind of meetings can we bring it up in? How are we going to facilitate, all these things? And they're going to be different for each organization that you go to, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And also with that one, you're unpicking the legacy. But even if now and all the leaders are on board and they're like, yeah, we genuinely want people to speak up, like that probably wasn't the narrative 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And if you've got a lot of old timers that have been in the business 20, 30 years, you have to unpick that whole legacy of, well, I know that Frank got fired for mentioning that thing. I know that Bob did that. And that sits with people. So that's the stuff you've got to bring people on a journey. And you can't just get psychological safety.
No,
Just
it's that whole
permission.
It's that. Sorry, go on.
You've got to bring it to life. You've got to demonstrate, and you've got to showcase those examples of where, like Susan did speak up, and she gave us that bit of information. It was absolutely fantastic, and this is the value that it brings. So, like, awesome, Susan. Let's all like high five her and give her a cake.
Yeah. Hold her up as the new example as to what happens when people actually speak up. It's a whole cliche, isn't it? Trust comes on foot and leaves on horseback. It takes a long time to earn it, and you can lose it really quickly, can't you? And when people have lost it, they remember exactly why they lost it and how they lost it, don't they? And like you said, that's the historical context that you're dealing with there as well, that unpicking of all those threads. Okay, fabulous. So that covers up the speak up. Next, we have frustrations into focus.
And this is a really important one for me. So if you're at work doing whatever job you're doing, if there's something that's frustrating you, it means that there's something in your way of you doing the job you came here to do. You cannot perform in the way you want to perform and do the awesome things you can do that are going to benefit you in the business if there's something frustrating you. And if you are frustrated, it's distracting, it's almost debilitating. It's going to make you angry or grumpy or resentful. And then there's going to be grumbles and moans and emotions coming out, negative ones. And that can then be contagious if you've got a frustrated workforce. And it's easy to tell if they are, because it's hard to keep, if you're frustrated, it's hard to keep it in. So I often go into businesses and you can see it and you can feel it straight away. But sometimes people turn off on that and they're like, oh, it's just Bob, he's always moaning. He's just one of those negative people. And it's like, no, let's go to Bob and find out, Bob, what is getting in your way of you doing your job? Well, it's this bit of paperwork and I don't get that information till then. And then this bit of equipment's old. So whatever those frustrations are, I really encourage leaders to find out what they are and do something about it. And if you can't do something about it, and there will be times you can't, what can you do instead? And what open, honest conversation can you have with Bob to say, look, Bob, I'm hearing you. I appreciate you speaking up. And I don't want you to be frustrated because I care about your well-being, but I can't fix that right now, but I can do this. And we are looking at this solution and we're looking at this bigger piece, because not everything can be fixed in one hit. Sometimes it needs investment and time and resource, but you've got to talk to people about this stuff. If people are frustrated, they cannot do a good job.
Even if they don't, as you said there, even if they don't get the the response, even if they don't get the answer they want, at least they're getting something back from the leaders.
Yeah.
As opposed to radio silence, in which case,
Yeah.
like, oh, well, they don't care anyway, and they're never going to do anything. If you go back and say, oh, I heard you, and it's a great idea, like to your point, it's a great idea, and we really need to look at that, but we're going to need to budget for in the next 12 months or even 18 months. Bob is going, oh, well, he's heard me, he agrees, and they're going to budget for it. Or even if the leaders go back, like you said, and say, great idea, but I don't think it's going to work for us at the moment, but please keep giving us ideas. Bob's like, oh, okay, well, that didn't work, but they still want good ideas from me.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win any way you look at it. The only way they lose is if they don't give him anything, if they don't give Bob anything.
Yeah, but there will be little things that you can do. So I recently started working with a big there was a big factory, a big mile-long factory, and I got a bunch of the supervisors together, and we were just talking openly about what it's like to work here. And there was one thing that was really getting on them. It was that they had to wear yellow high-vis and everyone else had to wear orange. And he said, we're trying to build that rapport with new workers, because he had lots and lots of workers, lots of new ones. And then people would get a bit shady when they worked up because they stood out. And he was like, we just want to be part of the team. And it was really important for them to just be wearing it was something as simple as wearing the same color high-vis vest. And I spoke to the leader and he didn't get it. And I said, I get that you don't get it. And I get that you've got your reasons of why you want the supervisors to stand out. I said, but this is really important to them. There was 10 of them and they all echoed the same thoughts. So I said to the leader, I said, can we just try it? Can you just give them a 3-week period where they wear the same color high-vis, and then we'll come back and we'll see, is it working? Are there any side effects that's affecting business or whatever? And they changed it, and he said it was remarkable. And they were so pleased. They were like, oh, that's what we wanted. And they'd not asked before. And it was only when I gave them that opportunity, I gave them permission to say what they wanted. And they were like, it's made such a difference with our rapport with the workforce. And there were no downsides. And then the leader was like, oh, I didn't think to even try that. So that's something I love doing. It's going, this is a frustration. It's a really small, insignificant thing, but it's going to make such a difference to these people. And then they felt heard and empowered. And then they can speak up about the next thing then.
Yeah. And for people listening to this as well, and if all this is new to you and you're going, how can just changing the color of a high-vis vest? Well, as Becky laid out there, the supervisors who had the different high-vis vests on, they felt like they weren't part of the work group. They felt like they were being, people were watching them everywhere they went because they stood out, they were different. And then, $50 or £50, whatever it was, to change a couple of vests. And now suddenly the supervisors are out in the workforce a lot more than they ever were, because now they don't stand out. They don't feel ashamed or guilty, or they don't look like the odd one out. They're doing their job properly now. They're going out and interfacing with the workforce more. They're learning about problems more. They're communicating more. They're talking to the people more. Everything, as Becky said then, got better, even with just such a simple thing that. Yeah. So and all it took was Becky to go in and listen to the problem, listen to the frustration.
Yeah, my job's pretty easy, to be fair. It is.
But it's not, though, is it?
It's allowing people permission to, and I'm a firm believer in let's just try stuff. Businesses often get afraid of change because they're like, what if it don't work? And I'm like, if it don't work, we can do something else, or we can go back. So it's okay to put a time on something. We're going to make this change because we think it's going to give us these outcomes, but we don't know until we try. So let's put a time frame on it. And I love the term micro experiment. Let's just go and do that in this one part of the factory for 2 weeks and see how it goes. And we'll be listening, we'll be feeling, and then we'll come back and we'll reflect on it. Did that give us the change and the benefits we thought it would? No, actually it went all wrong, and this happened and this happened, because you can't foresee some of that stuff. So don't be afraid of change.
Even if it didn't give you the feedback that you didn't want, you've learned what didn't work.
Yeah.
So you've learned something, haven't you?
Yeah. And then people feel empowered that we can tweak and adapt stuff if the stuff is not working. Because again, the high-vis vest, that was a barrier for them. It was a big thing that was in between them and their engagement and their communication with the workforce. And we took that barrier away.
Yeah. And even though the leader didn't understand why, even after I explained it to them, at least they were willing to give it a try as well, weren't they? They were curious to give it a try. But that sometimes does need people like yourself to go in there and go, let's just try this. This is what your people are saying. Let's try this. And then next time you go to that organization, maybe, and you're dealing with that same leader again, maybe you can tackle something bigger. Maybe you can, make more improvements because he's actually learned from you, from that one small change, which had a big impact. Okay, well, if we can do that with a vest, what else can we do with, what are the tools that we're asking them to use? Are they adequate? What about the environment that they're working in, and all these other really important facets that play a part? Okay, so that's frustrations into focus.
Another point on that, it's just really important about navigating those different perspectives. So if you are a senior leader, you are looking at the business and how work gets done from your perspective, your background, your experience, your view on the world. It is going to be completely different from the frontline worker, from the frontline supervisor. And we need to accept that they're going to be different, and then almost get into their shoes and go, I want to understand why that makes sense for you. I want to understand why you've got that perspective, and accept that it's going to be different from your own. It's not that you're right and they're wrong. We're looking at things from a different perspective. We're going to see them differently.
I always think of that. Have you seen that cartoon? You got two people standing opposite each other, and in the middle is a 6 on the floor, or a 9, depending on which perspective you've got. Depending on which person you are in that scenario.
And it's not about right or wrong. It's about that's what I'm seeing from where I am. So that is my truth.
Yeah. And it's your job to go in there and translate that, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's frustrations into focus. What's next?
And then the last two are all about learning. So learning from failure, naturally. In the world of safety, stuff goes wrong, incidents, accidents. But failure is bigger than that. It's like a customer complaint. It's a quality issue. It's a missed deadline. So this can be applied to any business anywhere. It could be the laptop in the oven. That's like, we didn't mean to do that. But it's really reframing that failure is going to happen. Of course, we don't want loads of accidents. We don't want to hurt people, of course. But we are going to fail. And we want to have an open appetite to fail safely, and also learn. It is a massive opportunity to learn. But this one is where it all goes wrong in businesses, because then you lose the speak up culture straight away if you respond in a really reactive, blamey, negative way. And obviously there's a lot of emotions that run high in senior leaders when something fails, because they don't want to fail, because it looks bad for them, it looks bad for their leadership, it looks bad for their reputation. Maybe the customers now, they've got to have a difficult conversation with the customer over a product. Maybe someone has got hurt, maybe something's got damaged and there's a load of money. Like, it is emotional, but let's just put that aside and go, this is an opportunity to learn from failure and do something different and do something better next time. And then linked with that, we can't just wait for our next failure, because most businesses are successful most days. They get stuff done, they meet deadlines, they make customers happy, and people go home. But there's still loads to learn there, because often the things that you're finding from a big failure, they're there right now. And obviously that ties in with the whole safety differently approach. It's like learning from normal, everyday work, which then links to, like, what can we learn? What's frustrating us? Because the things that are going to frustrate us might then be the things that cause the next failure.
Yeah, right. Okay, so they all tie in. They all tie in together. So learn from failure. That's almost retrospective. So the things already happened, but the everyday learning, that's learning about, obviously, well, what's going on now and what could potentially happen in the future as well. So we've got that.
Yeah, my favorite bit to kind of ask people is, say you've just done a big job, say you've just done a big crane lift or a big construction project or a big thing, and you hit the deadline and you hit the money budget and nobody got hurt and nothing went wrong. Were you good? Like, did you execute that really exceptionally, or are you just lucky? And people are like, what do you mean? And it's like, well, You were successful, really successful, which is awesome. Tell me how you did it. Well, we just did what we normally do. But last week you had a failure. Like being able to, if you're successful, that is wicked. But can you articulate how and why? Because that's the bits I'm really interested in. Because that's what I want you to learn from and do that again. Because we know that people aren't just following all the processes and procedures and everything that we planned. We're doing what makes sense at the time. Given the context and all the nuances of doing work in reality.
Yeah. Oh, that kind of stuff always reminds me of, I think it was Todd actually in one of his videos, he's talking about getting in a car with his mate and driving across state for like 10 hours or whatever it was. They get there and, you know, they go on there to meet some more friends and all that kind of stuff. Like, was that safe? And he asked the audience, and the audience say, well, yeah, because they got there, they did it, they accomplished their task. He said, yeah, but 3 out of the 4 tires were bald. There was no oil in the engine. It was just pure luck. It didn't overboil. And the brakes were shot, you know, just because they didn't have to stop suddenly. That's more luck than anything. So was it, even though they got there, was that operation still safe? Or were they, to your point, just lucky?
And also we often reward success and meeting deadlines and doing stuff without customer complaints and failures. And for example, if you're a project manager on a construction site and your project does that, you probably get rewarded, you probably get a bonus, you probably get like some kind of certificate or whatever, like an accolade. Then they're like, right, we're going to put this guy on the next job because he was fantastic. But we're not saying he didn't deserve that credit, but can we articulate why it was successful and take all that learning and eject it into the next one? Because it was like, we did it, but don't ask me how.
Yeah.
And then because we literally got there on the skin of our teeth, but who cares? Because we did it. No, we should care. Because we can still celebrate our success, but we can understand how. And I think people are scared to do that because it feels like you're investigating it like it was an almost failure. No, it was a success, and we're so happy that it was. Because in business, we want to do things well, but there's got to be things that we could have done differently or better, and we would have had an even better result. And these are the things that we're injecting into the next project, into the next task. And so many businesses are going days, weeks, months, being really successful, and that information is just lost. Because they don't think to look.
Reminds me of the and I, for some reason my head's just filled of all these kind of metaphors and stuff as you're talking at the moment. I think it's probably all those Tim Tams I had before this conversation. That reminds me, I can't remember who it was that said it, you know, only investigating or learning from instance is like trying to figure out what makes a marriage good by only looking at people who get divorced. You want to look at, you know, when, okay, well, this, as you know, as you said, then this whole project went really well. Why did it go really well? Because we're really good. So when you have an accident, is that when you're not really good? No. That's just an accident. Well, then let's learn from what went really well and see if we can do more of that. Because if we do more of that, then we lose that other bit that we don't want.
And I love bringing this to organizations that have never considered that this is a thing. The whole hop principle. This whole notion of learning from normal everyday work, learning from successes.
And how do people react when you start talking about this kind of stuff? You know, do you see their eyes light up? Do you see pennies drop? Do you say, oh, this is...
So the best bit about my job and why I do this is those kind of light bulb moments. Because I feel like my job is offering up like a buffet of ideas and things. And they'll be like, oh, I take a bit of that, I take a bit of that. Lots of food references because I like food.
There is.
But they have to find it themselves. They have to then take this theory, these ideas, and connect it to their view of the world, their perspective. And some people get it straight away and they're like, yeah, this is wicked. Why aren't we? We've always been doing this. And some people are like, no, because we've never done that. We don't need to do that. It's nonsense. And they're my favorite people. The people that are openly like aggressive. And I love that about this stuff. I'm like, well, stick with me, kid, because you're on my new project now. And I like staying with clients for a long time because I'll build up rapport and it's my job. And they don't know that I'm thinking this, but it's like I'm going to crack you.
They
And
will
it's
know.
weird. I'm not going to be smug. I'm going to be internally smug. But there'll be a moment when the penny drops for that person, and they slightly tweak how they're doing things and they look on the world. And that is, you can't buy that. That's like the best feeling.
So you like that? You like that challenge?
Yeah, I want at least 4 grumpy people at the back that don't want to be there. They're my favourite.
Go and give them cake. Be friends with them.
Yeah, of course. Cake, bacon sandwiches, penguins.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Tim Tams.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you. Those are the 5 layers.
Yeah.
And I can see, obviously, I've been involved in Hub for quite a while as well, and learning teams and all that kind of stuff. And I can see the influence that you've taken, obviously, but given it your own spin, and you've turned it into to language that. Sorry.
Turned it
into a cake. Turned into a cake, which is just. There's going to be people turning over in their graves, going, "What has she done? No." But you've turned it into language, which. Well, it works for you and it works for your clients, and if that's that in essence, that's what it's all about. I think it was Clive Lloyd put a post out a couple of months ago. Let's stop arguing over what this is called, and let's just start making things work better and communicating better and trusting more. And
titles don't matter, do they? We just need to find a way to connect it to you and your work and your team. Whatever language works for you is fine, but we probably don't need these big fancy academic terms. They often don't land in the real world with real workers. And I really spend a lot of time in that kind of blue collar industry, people doing physical stuff with their hands, and this fancy titles academic stuff is just not going to fly in that world. But that's the world where it has such an impact, and that's where I want to be with this stuff.
So who is your ideal client then?
So my ideal client is a business, probably like engineering, utilities, construction, manufacturing. So it's typically blue collar. Like, they are people that do physical stuff. They get stuff done with their hands. There's an operational team. Often my in is like the operations manager, director, or they will have their own health and safety team, because it'll be work that's got a significant safety risk. They care about their people, and they want to stay ahead of the times. Like, we live in a different world now compared to like 5-10 years ago. They want to be modern and progressive and open. They don't want to be dictatorial. I'm just going to tell you what to do and you go off and do it. Maybe the person that brings me in is that one that's open to that, but they've got people deep set in the organization that are just, "We've done it this way for 20 years, love, and you're not going to come in here with your cake otherwise." Like, I need an in to get at those people, because I can crack those people open and I love it. And it has such a positive impact on them and their business and then their team, because they're getting younger generations coming in, and some of these trades, we have to keep these businesses alive. So if they stay in the dark ages with their leadership and the way they talk to people, they're not going to attract the younger generations in, because younger generations now, they don't settle for being told what to do and not respected and not empowered and not given the autonomy. So I'm helping businesses kind of stay with the time, and I do a lot of stuff around like diversity and inclusion and those kinds of things, because they naturally sit in the space of workplace culture. Because people need to be treated like people and respected, which then has a happy byproduct of great leadership and great safety. But I love that grumpy, and I can picture the person I'm thinking of. That's my goal.
That doesn't help when you're looking directly at me. I can picture the grumpy old man I'm thinking of looking directly at me. Okay, thanks, Becky.
I really like that challenge.
Yeah, no, okay, cool. Oh, right. Why don't we have a look at, let's say someone's heard everything that we've been talking about, whether it be for the first time or whether it be, they're on the cusp of, this idea landing, and they want to start working with an organization to look at this kind of stuff? Obviously, you're based out of the UK. Are the majority of your clients in the UK?
Yeah, and I've got 2 little kids. I mean, I could be jet setting all over the world, but I've got 2 little kids and I want to hang out with them. So for right now, I'm in the UK, but I can do online stuff. But my preference really is sort of in-person kind of
Gotcha.
gigs.
Okay, so we got a UK organization. They're either in utilities engineering, they're in something where there's a lot of blue collar workers making stuff and making difference with their hands and building and all that kind of stuff. And they've heard what you've been talking about and they go, you know what? I want to go to the website and I want to learn some more. They can go and have a look at the culture cake. But where else would you suggest that they go to learn a bit more about you or learn a bit more about your services?
Yeah, so I'd say definitely follow my LinkedIn because I put content out every day. I also do a webinar every 6 weeks where I just get a bunch of people and we just talk about this stuff. So if this is something you're into and you want to come and understand that, you can. And
How
the way
do people find that?
it's not on here, which is ironic,
Ah,
but it's on LinkedIn. And if people sign up to my mailing list, they'll get invites to that. So that's at the bottom of this page, I believe.
it's going to be there. But what I'm going to do, because there's so many references to LinkedIn, if you can bear with me, I'm just going to find your LinkedIn page as well. So that's just so we can point people in the right direction.
Yeah, but essentially I do consulting, so I can come in and be a fresh pair of eyes in your business and help you look at stuff, because I am going to see it differently to you, not because I'm some kind of fancy expert, just because I'm coming at it from a fresh perspective and I can see things. Because often people in business, they're looking down and in because they're doing, and I can help kind of lift their gaze and look kind of out. I do. Go on. Yeah,
this is your LinkedIn page, and if they're interested in signing up to your what do you say, your monthly or your bi-monthly
I've
talks?
got like so if the second one there on the featured so that's a free digital download that people can have. That's 24 culture kicking tips. So if you click on that, you'll get that for free, and then you'll be part of the mailing list, so you'll get invites to the webinar. And there's also a free pre-recorded 40-minute workshop that people can have and they can share with their teams, and it's got some of this good stuff.
Is that in here as well?
No, so if you sign up to the same link, you get access to both.
Gotcha. So this is the important one, and this is in her featured posts, and it's one to kick your current culture towards high performance. There's a picture there of the 24 workplace culture kicking tips as well from Becky. So jump on there, jump to the top. I mean, obviously we're already in contact, but send her a connection request. I'm sure she'll be more than happy to connect with people.
Yeah, because I want to keep this conversation going. I want people to be understanding this stuff and bring it into their business. Like, I can't help every business in the world, and I don't plan to, but I want people to be able to pick up this stuff and apply it into their business, because makes sense.
And learn, I suppose, learn what it is first, and then then come and talk to you. So I've noticed on here as well, we also have a services section here on your webpage. We've got HPC Pro. What's HPC
That's High
Program?
Performing Coaches Program. So that's my signature program, which is a mixture of workshops and group coaching. So I'm doing that with a number of organizations at the moment. It brings to life all the 5 layers of the cake in a combination of workshops and group coaching. So you get a bit of me for half an hour, for half a day. We explore some of this stuff in a workshop. You then go away, bring it to life in your business, and then come back on a group coaching call, and we kind of like what worked, what didn't work. And that's a really great framework.
Gotcha.
I get to hang out with a business for a good 12 months, which I love, because then I can see the penny dropping and see this coming to life, because I can't change your culture for you. It's only the people inside the business that can. So that's the role I play. I partner with them and then give them a load of information, ideas, spark their curiosity, and then they go away and try it and then come back to me. And then I've got a number of specific workshops on like speak up culture, on diversity inclusion, on health and well-being, because culture is such a broad topic, right? So over time I've built a whole suite of workshops. And for example, I've just got a new client and they were like, we want you to do a workshop for our workforce, and we want you to talk about, like, I mean, they like the term behavioural based safety, and I know it's got a bit of a negative edge on it, but they want me to talk about human error basically, and the role that they play and what tangible things they can do, so I can build stuff bespoke for whatever client they want. So you need a balance of having stuff that's ready to give people an idea, but there's always the opportunity to make it fit for your business.
Well, context matters, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. You know, you've got to apply the same sort of thinking to you and the services you offer as well.
Yeah.
You can't just have a cookie cutter and it applies to every organization, because that's not going to work, is it? So on here we got the human error side of things, psych safety, diversity and inclusion, learning from everyday work. So these are individuals as well as being part of the main program. Is that correct?
Yeah. So you can either have one piece to give to start you off, because some people want to start small, or you can go all in and have a big program, or anywhere in between. Yeah,
right. Okay. So if they want to micro experiment with, you know, let's have a look at learning from failure and see how that goes within the organization. And then, you know, maybe learning from everyday work is the next 6 months or something along those lines. Right. Okay. So it's all scalable as well. You don't have to get the whole cake in one big chunk and get diabetes from eating it.
Yeah. You can just have a little bite.
You have a little nibble and then, you know, work from there. Yeah, awesome. Is there anything else on your website that you want to show people or guide people towards? Contact you. That'd be good. So you've actually called it Let's Talk from memory, haven't you?
Yeah, because I just like chatting to people. So it doesn't have to be.
Oh, you've got a Calendly. I need to get one of those as well.
Yeah, it's the future, man. You want to get on board.
I should do, shouldn't I? I should do, because at the moment I'm like, oh, hold on, let me check my calendar while we're doing it. So people can book a time with you, 30-minute conference call with you, and this books it straight into your calendar from here, doesn't it?
Definitely.
All right, cool. And then there's also the obligatory name and email address, so you can get back to them that way as well.
Yeah, cool.
Fabulous. Well, let's stop sharing because we're over an hour.
No, we just rabbited right on, didn't we?
So those Tim Tams that went straight to my head. And you know, this is the Shut Up David series, but I can still waffle on.
Yeah. You didn't talk that much, to be fair. I think you should have said Shut Up Becky.
We'll rename it called the Shut Up. We'll rename it called the Shut Up Becky video, shall we?
You got me talking about cake, and then I went on one. So,
hey, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. This is the second time we've spoken. I know you know a lot of the people that I know over here in Australia as well, and they all have high regard for you, and they love speaking to you, and they love what you're doing over there in England. And obviously, I'm from England. Next time I'm over in England, I'll be definitely.
You seem to have all the cool conferences in Australia, so we need to bring some of that good stuff this side of the world.
Isn't that strange? Because I was talking to Elisa Lynch in Ireland, and she's, I think it's Nippin Anand. He's in England, isn't he? He went over to Ireland and did a conference on hop, literally just before COVID, and she said that's the only thing they've had there since, before or since. There seems to be a bit of a dearth of it in England. Maybe you should set it up. Then maybe you should set one up.
Yeah, it was funny. There was a LinkedIn chat about that summit you've just had, and someone was like, "Man, we need this in England." And I was like, "Yeah, let's just get on it." So there's a kind of a something brewing, I think. So you never know.
Hey, do you have 2 minutes to discuss the conference that you?
Yeah, sure.
Went on. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Again, I'm trying to spread my wings. I'm trying to find different audiences to bring this to life in. So I've just joined. It's got a fancy name, of course it has. The International Association of Facilitators. But if you love an acronym, they're called the IAF. So these are a bunch of people from loads of different industries that are essentially professional facilitators. And I went to the conference and I got the opportunity to run a workshop. So it's like a speaking gig, but more of a doing gig.
Nice.
So I ran a workshop and I thought, what's my favorite kind of facilitation? Is learning teams, because I really believe in the power of getting people together, and the structure of having 2 sessions with the overnight soak is just really powerful. So I thought I'll bring that to the table. People probably know about it, but I'll try and put a spin on it for people that don't. And nobody knew about it. Nobody had never heard of it. And these are professional facilitators, and of course there's loads of different styles of workshops you can do, but this was completely brand new, so it was really powerful to bring that. And again, learning teams aren't my thing. They exist in the world, but it's a really powerful tool, and it's something that I bring to my clients. And I wanted to bring that structure and the power of using it, especially with like, you're basically bringing a bunch of workers together to talk about work, that people that are close to work, and there's just so much benefit in that. And it was really brand new to this group of people, so I was glad that I had the opportunity to bring that to an
And how did it land with them?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, and then so I kind of framed it, and my favorite opening question for the learn session is good day, bad day. So I spread out a massive like wall. Tell me about a good day, tell me about a bad day. And we did that in the room, and some people were new to that concept, because you need a really open, broad question to get people going, because often people that get told to come to a learning team are like, oh, what's this? And they've never been in a room where people actually care about asking them what it's like to work in. And maybe there's something, you've got a hidden agenda because you really want to talk about that process, but you've got to give them the freedom to talk about whatever they want. So I did the good day, bad day, and loads of like really cool stuff came out from that.
Came out?
But it comes out when you get a bunch of workers together, or supervisors or whatever. So it's really, really fun to do it. And I'm going to fly that flag wherever I get an opportunity to speak.
Are you actually a member of the IAF as well now?
So you don't? Yeah, I'm not a member, but you can just go along. It's a really open kind of like organization. They don't shut the doors if you're not paying them cash. Sort of
if you're not,
yeah. But they're international, so they're all over the world.
Shout out to them as well.
Yeah, it's great to bring that kind of concept, to a new audience, and that's what I plan to do. I'm trying to come out of the safety bubble and explore. There's a whole world out there, right? Bring this idea, this notion to more people.
That's awesome. Well done for that. You know, raising the awareness and the education and bringing new concepts out there, sparking curiosity, starting conversations. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing this as well. You know, trying to do all those things, and bring a level of awareness as well, so that people know that they don't have to stick with that old way of safety, which, like you and I and everyone I speak to, had that sense in their gut that there has to be a better way.
Yeah.
There has to be a better way. And then as soon as you learn it and it just makes sense, and you go, oh, thank God for that. There is a better way. Let's do it.
And I want everyone to be doing it.
Yeah. And it's huge, and it's really gaining momentum now. Outside of America, it's been on for about 20 years in America. But it's crept out of the borders, obviously, and there was a bit of a tussle as to what it was going to be called here in Australia, whether it's New View or Safety 2 or Safety Differently from DECA and all that kind of stuff. But HOP seems to now becoming the more prevalent acronym, and theoretical approach as well. So maybe people will stop arguing now on LinkedIn, which they love to do, and just kind of go, no, let's just call it HOP. Let's just call it.
I don't even engage in those conversations anymore, because we've done that. It doesn't matter what it's called. Just go and do something. Just start. Yeah.
Well, Becky, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Our first English guest.
Oh wow, sweet.
Yeah. So that's your moniker. And for this, that's your title for this, the first English guest. I think I'm talking to Gareth Locke later on, so he might be the second one.
I'm good mates with Gareth Locke. Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
I've got a telephone call with him in, I think, about 10 or 15 minutes.
I'll tell him you were just on with me.
I will do. But you definitely pipped him to the post, so I'll tell him he comes in second and see how that lands with him. But it was great speaking to you. If you could hang around after I dropped you down, I just want to say goodbye to everybody else and then quickly catch up with you before you disappear. But it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much, Becky. And as I said, I'll drop all those links in the description below so people can find you, your LinkedIn, your website, and all that kind of stuff. So thank you again, and take care.
Thank you.
He says, smoothly trying to transition you out the screen. So that was Becky Ray from England, from Bristol, coming to talk to you about her culture cake. fascinating stuff, taking all these principles and theories from around the world, and safety and culture, elements of hop in there, other elements that she's brought in that work for her in her context and her environment and the clients that she talks to, which is a huge part of what we kept on alluding to throughout the conversation. It doesn't matter what it's called. It doesn't matter about the strict processes and guidelines. Just start those conversations with the people at the front line. Give them the space and the autonomy. In HRO speak, defer to their experience and their expertise, because those are the people doing the work who are putting literally their lives on the line. Open those communications, find ways of doing it. Doesn't matter what you call it, doesn't matter if it's just start and do something. And Becky's making great waves in obviously in the UK. She's got her clients there. She's got her shingle out and she's making a difference. So reach out to her via LinkedIn, via her website. Even if you aren't in the UK, but you're in a different country, I'm sure she'd still love to hear from you, give you some ideas as to how you could go about starting as well. She's just that kind of person. So thank you again for listening and watching. Very much appreciated. And we look forward to bringing you more people from around the world to talk to you about all things new view safety and organizational coaching. Take care, everyone.